All right, here we go for part two. More stuff. Um, the question that I left you hanging with in part one is why bother? Why would we bother creating a separate file or a separate section? It sounds confusing. The style, inline style seemed to work just fine. And we'll see that this is so much more slick. And for some reasons that I'm about to show you here. Um, One idea is we can apply the same code or style to many HTML elements. So, for instance, back in this one, if we wanted to, oh, I deleted it. Hang on, open this one. Where was it? Yeah, that one there. If I wanted to have the same heading code for both headings, I'm going to delete this old one. Then remember, the old way, I'd have to have that code that I just deleted in both of these spots. But in this case, if I just go run, I'm going to file save and then run in Chrome, then it applies automatically to both H1s. It says, even if I had 500 H1s on this web page, they would all be styled in the same way. And that's pretty awesome. To be able to do all of that in one or two lines of CSS is great. Same code to many HTML elements in one page. One thing that's nice is we can make very easily, without putting a whole bunch of code, a similar appearance, what we would call look and feel, to more than one page. So we know when we're building a website, it has many pages perhaps that are linked. And if we use the same CSS, then it'll have the same look and feel, which is often a goal. One thing is, say if it's easy to change, which means, say, you're doing a website for a customer and they decided that they'd rather have the default font be 12 instead 12 point rather than 10 point or 15 point or whatever you made. Well, instead of having to go into every single element and changing the um, the font size, we could just change it in one spot, and then that would automatically change it in all the rest of the code. That's awesome. That's awesome. And um, we mentioned about how, you know, CSS and HTML aren't really programming languages. We said we are coding still, but it's not really a programming language. But this CSS gives us an ability to have two things about good programs. Good coding is reusable and maintainable. Maintainable means if I want to fix something, how hard is it to fix it? Do I have to change it in 1,000 places or just one place? That's maintainability of code. And reusability is, okay, I wrote a style sheet here called rest all style, and it has a certain look and feel, and then I'm going to make a new page. I don't have to make a new CSS file. I can just use the same one, and that's reusable code, which is important in making our lives a lot easier as coders. It's pretty good. All right, hopefully you got that. Next, the general CSS syntax. So in general, this is what it looks like. So in whether it's in a style section in HTML or in a separate file, we have this selector, and then notice the curly brackets. The curly brackets show and contain all of the CSS declarations. So each one of these here is a CSS declaration. So property 1, colon, value 1, semicolon, and so on. We could have lots of these in one CSS selector declaration. Okay, and by the way, these are words that are just general words. So the selector is any HTML element. So these are what we learned last chapter: P's and IMGs and tables and bodies and table datas and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We can format each of these using CSS. Okay, what else? Property 1, value 1 combination is called a CSS declaration. That part, by the way, we are familiar with, right? We would put those in quotes after a style equals for inline CSS, but now we're pulling them out and putting them in their separate file. Do I have anything else down here? Yes. Property one are things like, we saw color, font size, border, and a million others we've seen. There's background color, there's um, font family, font color, a whole bunch, a million, maybe not a million, but close. Value one is the property, is the value of the property that we are assigning. And I think I've got an example down here. For example, and again, pause if I'm going too fast. In this CSS code, we've got P bracket color red font family Arial, and in this case, P is the selector. That's the element that I'm changing. The color and font family are the properties that I'm assigning, the declaring for CSS, and red and Arial are the values we are assigning. And we've got some practice in these already in the first chapter. So I'm hoping that this sort of thing is, like this part at least, is familiar, even though this part might be new. And you're getting some practice on Code Academy writing these declarations anyway, so that's all good. Anything? No, that's it for that page. On to the next thing. Note, in CSS, a comment is in between front slash asterisk, asterisk, front slash. So in between there is our comments. So for example, this is a comment in your CSS file. So in CSS itself, that's the comment. Recall, HTML comments look like this, with the open tag, exclamation point, dash dash, and then whatever text you'd like to put in there, and you end the comment with dash dash, and then the close tag symbol. Okay, that's comments are a little bit different in CSS. Colors. We talked about colors already. This might be a review, I hope. Can be in words, blue, red, fuchsia, yellow, whatever. It can be a 6-digit hexadecimal code. And so it's like number sign 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got an extra dash in there that I shouldn't have. Okay, there we go. 6-digit decimal code where each blank is filled with a digit from 0 to 9 or a letter from A to F. So an example, did I have an example in my, I think so. No, in the CSS. Right there is a hexadecimal color. What color that is? Well, I don't know, except for to run it. If I ran it, it's this pukey green color. And how would I know what color I'm choosing if I use the hexadecimal thing? Well, you can just Google hexadecimal colors, and you'll be able to see all the different hexadecimal values. Also, we could put RGB. RGB stands for red, green, blue, and then in brackets 3 numbers, where these 3 numbers are an integer from 0 to 255. 0 to 255. So I don't know if I did one. I don't think I did do one like that. But this would be like RG. Oh, maybe I did. Let me just see. Yeah, there's one. This background color is 23, 45, 67, which when I ran it, it looked an awful lot like black, but I guess that's not black. That's some sort of gray color, I suppose. All right, how much more do I got to go? Is it time for part 3? Yeah, I'm going to stop here and go to part 3. I think there's just a little bit left, but I want to stop here. So we'll go to part 3.